Man, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Feels good. Feels
It
good to be at Friday.
it feels good to be at Friday. We had a short week this week. I feel like usually when I see you, you're out in the truck, out in the van. You're moving around. You're doing stuff. You're conquering the world.
Trying to, man. One day at a time.
Did did this mess with your cadence at all? I was worried that
Hey,
having you come
man.
on here. Were you planning on posting up today?
Like I told you, man, I've been waiting to get the text that says, hey, SWP, let's
Let's
jump on
go.
the pod together. I would move mountains to get on this thing. So
Let's go.
schedule was pushed aside immediately when I got that text that said, hey, let's jump on.
Oh, I love it. Streetwise Nation, we got Lance Ingram with us today, man. It's
Let's
it's
go.
great. It's great to see you. I have also been waiting, anticipating this conversation. And technically it was on me to send the text, and yes, I could have sent it earlier, but I'm walking through my life with hands up. I let the Lord kind of dictate who's next on the
Amen.
Streetwise platform. And I just was halfway through a run and was like, you know what? Today's the day.
The
I'm gonna.
dopamine, the endorphins had you thinking,
That was
I'm
it.
glad I'm glad I'm glad you capitalized when you felt it and didn't wait after the
Oh, it
run
was
to send the
instant.
tag. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you may have realized this could be a bad idea by sending this.
No, I think we're gonna do some things today. That's for sure. We're gonna do some things today. So tell us, man, Lance, what's your day to day? What's your role? What's your title? Tell the people of Streetwise Nation who you are, and we'll
Yeah.
start there.
Do you want the story? Should I give the full story of Waterloo, all the things?
Yeah, Waterloo
Alright.
Turf. Come on,
Let's
let us
let's
know.
let's 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 crank it up. So, I founded Waterloo in 2021. I'm actually from the Austin area, so similar to you. Grew up in Austin, went to college, graduated college 2016, had no idea what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to get into the commercial real estate lane because I saw that's what all my buddies were doing, and I was like, that's what you do. You graduate college, you go into an office and you plug away for X amount of years and that's it. And so I started interviewing in the commercial real estate space and I quickly realized like I don't want to do this. I was going around, I was meeting people, I was getting coffee with guys in the space and I was like this just isn't for me and I had this other opportunity on my plate at the time with a buddy at the time was like, "Hey, I'm starting up a artificial turf company. Would you want to help me co-start this? I'll do it in Dallas. You can open the one in Austin and let's run it." And so at first I said no, did the interviewing in the commercial space only to come back. And I was like, you know what? I've always had this entrepreneurial itch. I'm living at home. What do I have to lose? If this thing goes belly up, I'm already at home. So it is what it is.
Let's go.
I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? Let's scratch this itch and let's try out the entrepreneur life. So that's what happened. Helped co-start that, ran that turf company for about 3 years. And this is a reminder, this is pre-Waterloo. This is not Waterloo Turf. So ran that turf company for 3 years. And 3 years in, I kind of started to get this grass is greener feel. Like again, still looking at, I guess comparison is the thief and looking at what my friends were doing and being in the corporate world and traveling across the country and going to events in Vegas and New York and things like that. And I was like, that's what a big boy job is. What I've got is like it's a hobby. And again, I was naive. I didn't know what I was talking about. But in my head at the time, that old turf company was like my first job. And to me, it felt like a hobby. It didn't feel like a big boy job like what my friends were doing. And I remember at the time telling my friends, like, hey, I think I'm gonna sell off the ownership I have. I'm gonna go into medical device sales. And they were like, do not do that. Like, don't like, please don't do that. Like, what you've got is what everybody else wants. You've got business ownership, you've got freedom of schedule, you've got financial freedom. You're 24, 25 at the time. Like, what do you don't do that? And unfortunately, I've always been the guy that's like, you can tell me the stove is hot. I'm still going to touch it anyways and find out
Yeah.
for myself. And so
Let's
that's
go.
exactly what happened. I sold off my ownership. I went into medical device sales and quickly realized everybody else was right that the stove was hot, and I ultimately felt the burn of it. And so about 2 years in to medical device, One the story I often share that kind of like really catapulted me to where Waterloo, getting back into the turf space. One of my territories was Abilene, Texas, which is about 3.5 hours outside of Austin. And I had a lot of cases in that space, and I would be there every 2 weeks. And typically my cases, my surgeries that I would help out with would start at like 7:30, 8 a.m. And so I would leave Austin at 4 a.m. to get to Abilene in order to get to these cases. And there's one morning, 4 a.m., hit the road. I'm driving to Abilene. I'm on these back parts, driving through. And kind of like a freak ice storm came through, and I was going down a hill, slid off the road. Thankfully, no 18 wheelers or anything were coming the other direction. Slid off the road, through a fence into a field, and I'm sitting there in my car being like, what is going on? And I get a call from the doctor's office being like, hey, where you at? And I was like, hey, this just happened. I'm trying to get my car out. And it wasn't, are you okay? How can we help? It was, well, how soon can you till you can get here? And I was like, what? I'm good. Hey, I'm good. And I'll be there as soon as I
By the
can.
way,
Yeah,
and no
thanks.
bones are broken.
Yeah, thanks for asking. And so it was just like, it just didn't sit right. And so I remember I go through a whole day there. I leave Abilene at like 7 p.m. only to get home at 11 p.m. that night. And I'm kind of thinking to myself on this drive home, like, I don't want to do this. What I had before was good. Business ownership is a real job, it's a real thing. How can I get back into it? And I never had this grand scheme, this long play of I'm going to leave turf only to come back to turf. Like, that was never it. I'm not that smart. And I was sitting in my car driving back thinking, running the numbers like, hey, if I could get another turf company started, have full time ownership of it, I'm about to get married. That was a big thing for me. Like, I was about to get married, and me and my wife knew we wanted to have kids at some point in the near future. And I just, over the 2 years of medical, I'd watched a lot of the people in the medical space, the ones that were continuing to level up in the space, they were leveling up typically at the sacrifice of their family. And
Mm,
so, I saw a lot of guys crush it, make crazy money and do crazy things, but they were only seeing their kids twice a week
mm.
because they're leaving the house at 5:30 a.m. and they're getting back at 11:30, 10:30 p.m. because they're doing dinners every night with doctors. And I was like, I don't care enough to do that. And so that's really what propelled me to make the jump back into entrepreneurship. And so I started Waterloo Turf 2021, burned the boats, got married the same month I started Waterloo, and just kind of up and running from there. And so I ran it solo for about 3 years, and it was just me and Austin trying to figure this thing out. And 3 years in, a buddy of mine, Ted, he reached out. He was in San Antonio, and he was like, "Hey, man, I've been following your journey. If you're ever thought about expanding or growing out Waterloo Turf, I'd love to talk about, expanding to San Antonio." And it was a very much like right place, right person, right time situation where I always knew I wanted to expand Waterloo. It just had to be the right mix of all those things. And Teddy was that guy. And so we expanded out to San Antonio, and Teddy ran it full time as general manager. And he's now part owner of that location. But after about 3 to 4 months of getting San Antonio up and running, I wasn't really like that involved with San Antonio. I wasn't traveling to San Antonio at least. And it left me in a spot where I was like, all right, the best realization of this whole process was the validation that it doesn't take a lance to run a Waterloo Turf. Teddy was proving very quickly that it wasn't, you got to have a lance to be an operator. It was the systems that were in place that were running the business. I mean, Teddy's an incredible operator, and he was the best guy that could have done the first location without a doubt. But I think that was the best realization of that. And so it left me in the spot where I was like, all right, San Antonio's up and running. I'm back in Austin full time. How can we continue to grow this thing? And so it was at this moment in time that I'm trying to figure out, I'm praying over like what's the best way to do this, seeking wisdom and advice. And my wife and I joined a small group through our church that Tim Lovett and his wife were actually running. They were leading that group. And I usually don't give the full backstory, but I'll give you the full backstory
Alright, come on.
because I really want to paint the picture like Waterloo Turf is there's hard work involved, but it's really just answered prayers, and I hope to tie that into the story. So Tim and his wife were leading one group in this small group. The other group was led by a couple, we call them the Dannies, Danny and Danielle.
Okay.
And so Danny and Danielle had actually been clients of Waterloo about a year prior to us joining this group. And so Danny reached out a few months before this group launched and was like, "Hey man, we're leading a group for this class through the church. Would you guys want to join it?" And I just didn't really think much of it. I like kind of passed on it at the time and never really thought about it again. And then 2 days before the group started, my cousin, who her and her husband also go to the same church, were like, "Hey, we just went on this marriage retreat. We're going to join this group. Can y'all please join it with us?" And I completely forgot that the Dannies reached out beforehand. And so me and my wife were like, "Sure, yeah, we'll join it." And so that's how we got put in the Lovitz group. If I had
Wow.
thought through for 2 seconds and been like, "Oh yeah, actually someone texted us about this. They're leading a group." I'll text him and let him know the 4 of us wanna be in their group. Waterloo Turf probably would
You
not.
would have went a different
Yeah, I
direction.
would've sat at this table and they would've been at this table. So, like, even to the details of, like, that is how prayers were answered. And so anyways, my wife and I, we joined this group, and Timmy and I we don't talk business or anything for a handful of months. We just kinda, like, get to know each other, see each other once a week, whatever. Then about 3 or 4 months in, we go on a double date with our wives, and we started talking about like, "Hey, what do you do for work?" This and that. And I was like, I own this turf company and I'm wanting to expand it. I'm trying to figure out which way I want to go corporately. I've thought about franchising just because I've seen my friend franchise his small business and I've kind of followed his
Okay.
journey and that looks cool, but I don't know a lot
Yeah.
about it. So kind of just telling him where I'm at. And he was like, "That's crazy." I was like, "What do you mean that's crazy? It's not that crazy." He's like, "No, it's crazy because I'm in franchising and I've been looking for a turf company for like 2 years. And so
Huh.
we should talk about this." And so that's kinda how it all started, and then we continued to meet and doors continued to open, and ultimately it led to an agreement where we were like, "Yeah, let's do this thing." And that was like August of 2025 or 2024, and we officially started franchising December of 2025. So yeah.
December of 2024?
Or yeah, yeah, December 2024. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow. First of all, praise God.
Praise
Gee
God.
Louise. That is an amazing backstory, just that you were able to come back to the turf space, that you a lot of times those accidents go the other way, and the fact that that was able to be utilized as a pivotal moment in just your personal journey. I think we've all can relate to something like that happening in our lives. It's like a kind of a gut check moment. I've reflected my own journey in. Sometimes if we don't sit ourselves down to reflect on the direction that we're headed, God will sit us down
Yeah.
and have us reflect on the direction, and then all the way up to meeting Tim. First of all, just to not to like challenge you at all, but I do want to push back a little bit. As somebody that's a business owner, loves talking business, it's hard for me to have small talk with folks, just period, because unless it's like an active sports event happening
Yeah.
or kids, what else is there to talk about other than business?
Yeah.
And something I have a hard time with that. So I have a hard time believing that you and Tim Lovett made it past even the first 30 minutes without getting into business. Like, what the heck were you guys talking about?
Well, again, you gotta remember this is in the form of it was a small group, so there's a bunch of other couples involved.
Fair enough.
So I'm sure it got dropped at some point that that's what I do and he does what he does, but it wasn't like at least in enough of a he probably thought I was just like I was in sales for a turf company.
Sure.
And I all I knew was he was like involved with painting for this franchise company,
Yeah.
but I didn't even really know. So it was like seeds had been dropped, but the full of like what we both did, I don't think had really come to the point of realization until we had a real convo.
Yeah, and I want to get back to the partnership with Tim at some point if we get there. I think we will, but I want to dive in a little bit more into that transition from being in sales, med
Yeah.
device sales, to starting your own business at the same time as getting married. So I started my franchise at the same time, literally the next day. So I got married to my wife March 12th, 2016, and March 13th, we went to Virginia Beach for Mosquito Joe corporate training. So
Let's go.
boom, boom. I'm with you. But at the time, I was a teacher, a coach in inner city Dallas. I came from inner city Chicago. I wasn't getting paid that much to begin with. Like it wasn't a very stable thing. I was kind of working what I was felt like God had positioned me in and what I was good at and where I was called to be. But the transition itself was very exciting. It wasn't until much later when the business was really running where we my wife and I figured out like, oh gosh, what have we gotten ourselves into? What was that transition for you like? Were there any gut check moments? Was there anything that you had to really work with your wife in setting up this business venture? So I'm sure she knew you in your previous life, right?
Yeah.
In the
Yeah,
turf
yeah, yeah.
war. Kinda explain that to me.
Yeah, man. I think back on that time and I feel like God put like a veil over the fear department of my brain
Mm,
because I look back and I'm like, I wasn't, for whatever reason, I wasn't fearful. I wasn't second guessing. Like, I don't know. I honestly was probably like very naive in the way I went about it just because it was just like, yeah, it was truly like quit my job. I just got an LLC. Like, I'm just going to start putting the pieces together. I went and got an accountant and a lot of it a lot of it truly is because like I had the experience of doing it all
yeah.
before.
So
So I
there's
think that was
confidence there. Yeah, there's
yeah,
confidence.
that
You
was a
knew the steps.
yeah, that was a massive part of it where it's like I know the steps to get to where I want to go, or at least like get me in the potential range of where I want to go. So it wasn't like I was trying to figure out this puzzle for the first time, which I think was a big part of it. But yeah, even like I was, we were living off my wife's income for at least a year. And it was like we were living in a moldy house and it was what it was. And I think, I was just prayerful that God was going to continue to steer this business in the right direction. And I had also like when I started Waterloo, I like for whatever reason, just ran into a battle of chronic pain. And that's been like a 5-year journey. And I think that took up a lot of my emotional capacity. So when it came
Mm,
time to like being stressed with the business, I honestly, I don't think I had the emotional capacity to be stressed about it. And so it was just like, if anything, the business was kind of like a safe space where I was like, all right, I know how to operate this. I'm not stressed about it. It can kind of distract me from the stuff I'm dealing with. And I can just go into my 8 to 5 with Waterloo and like grind it out and see progression happen over here. But on the physical standpoint for myself, I was just at a stagnant point or even like declining point, which was frustrating. So I kind of had these two things going on and this one just took the physical side just took a lot more of my energy than the Waterloo side, and I think that's kind of what happened. If any of that makes sense.
no, that makes a lot of sense. I think as an entrepreneur, we see the work that we're putting in on a day-to-day basis, and we oftentimes have the ability to see the future and what's going to come from that
Yeah.
work and that investment, where sometimes, at least in my experience, the people around us, they don't necessarily see it yet until you can actually like show it. Like there's money in the bank account. What was that experience like for you guys? Freshly married couple. I mean, did she have rose colored glasses as well? Was there anything where you just needed to dig a little bit deeper in the marriage and just having her trust you? Like what was that process like with you guys as a young, newly married couple?
I mean, she's been supportive the whole time. I think I probably could have gone about the transition from medical to turf better. It wasn't there wasn't much of a conversation. I was like, "I'm quitting my
This
job."
is what I'm doing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
probably honestly quit my job before I even told her, like, I'm quitting my job. So, yeah, I hey, this was years ago. Man,
Yeah.
I've
We've learned, we've
I
grown.
5 years of marriage, I'm a different man now, but, yeah, she was I mean, she's been supportive the whole time, and she believed in it from the start,
Love it.
And yeah, it's, something we often say when we're interviewing, people that are interested in becoming entrepreneurs and they are married. It's like, what does your spouse think about this decision? Because you can be successful with an unhappy spouse, but your success is going to be so much greater and have so much opportunity if your spouse is 100% behind you and, putting gas in your tank.
Oh man, being able to plug the holes in your cup, fill you up when you're feeling low.
Yeah.
If there's any ounce of, "Hey, I told you so. We should never have done this," that can break somebody. That can break them quick.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's you. When you're feeling that way, I don't know if I should have done this. The last thing you want to hear is someone be like, I
Yeah,
know. It's like, no, no, no.
you
This is the
got
right
this.
decision. Yeah, we got this. We're in a growing pain season. It's painful. We're growing, but we'll get out of it. We'll grow
Yeah,
from it. So
it's everything. And, hey, you're a dad now. Let's talk
I'm a
about that.
dad. I'm a
How
dad.
has so here's the official question. How has becoming a dad changed your perspective on being a business owner, but also a leader in a quickly growing franchise system, if I do say
Yeah.
so myself?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're a part of it. Um, man, being a dad's been the best. Like I love it. I have a daughter and she's the greatest. And yeah, it's just I think if anything, it's given me like perspective on the blessing of entrepreneurship. Cause like in my head, when I was like, I want to go back to turf and start my own company because we know we want to have a family and I want to be able to have the free time. Like those were all just words I was saying because I think I wanted those things, but for them to actually become a reality and now have a family and have the opportunity to say yes to the things I want to say yes to and no to the things I want to say no to and go home and be a dad and not have to answer to a boss like it is the real deal. Like that like I think about the other side of man, if I was still in medical and I was having to go to surgeries and try to do dinners with doctors to keep those accounts and also man like while also like wanting to love on my daughter and spend time with her and like man, I don't know how I'm not built like that.
Yeah.
So it's been a massive blessing and I think yeah, just having a child just you become a lot less selfish or ideally you should. You can fight it for a while, but you realize how selfish you are before. And I think it's moved over into the way I operate on a business side of things. Just like the understanding that as this company's grown, I have a leadership role. And it's weird. I think I actually struggled with it for a little bit because for years, 4 years or so, it was really just me and Austin. Like that's it. I didn't have any sales reps for that whole time and I was full-time owner operator wearing all the hats. And so I was leader of one, which was just me. And over the past year and a half, there's two sales reps in Austin. San Antonio's grown. Obviously, the franchising side has grown, and internally, it's a whole different thing. And so naturally, a leadership role has been built into it. And just me for a bit, I think I was hesitant to fully grab it. But I think in the last 7 months, especially, like I've had the realization of like you need to really take advantage of this opportunity that's in front of you and own being a leader. And that's changed some of the ways that I just operate in my day to day life because I know like you can't be doing X, Y, and Z because it's going to pour over into your work life and you need to be a good leader. You can't have a half day off on a Monday or whatever the case might be because you're tired or, whatever it is. So I think there's just been a realization of not to be apathetic towards a leadership spot that's
Mm,
been placed in front of you.
mm. Yeah, shout out, Bobby and, Brandon?
Brandon. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
let's
Bobby
go.
Brandon.
Let's go. What have
Couple
you
studs.
Studs, man. Yeah, 100%. What have you had to like, practical things that you've had to actually change in transitioning from not just being a solo operator, but building onto your internal team to the mindset that goes into your role as a founder in a franchise organization that any minute now could cross over 100 territories?
Yeah, praise God. I think on the like person like the franchise or the Austin side of things, for example, like having a couple sales reps in the field, it's like for a while, you get into business ownership to own a business, and it got to the point where the business was owning me, and that's not a fun spot to be. It's a
Mm,
good problem to have to deal with because it means that your business has grown to the
yeah,
point where you need to grow. But I was reluctant to grow. I was like, I want to continue to have my hands on everything. And it's a scary thing to grow for the first time at least. It's not scary now to bring people on the team and hire new sales reps, but at first it was really scary because I felt like I was giving a lot of the reign and the responsibility of this child of mine that I've poured into to somebody else and was like, all right, go run with it. And so I think it just made me really dial in our systems and our operations and again, it's one thing for me, the owner operator. I've got everything in my head, but to put it on head, to put it to paper and put it in a way that can be rinse and repeat for rep after rep after rep, and do it in a way where you can remove yourself from the
yeah,
business as you plug new reps in like that. That was a different beast that I didn't really know. And it's kind of been an exercise over the last year and a half, and it's been super helpful, but it's been hard to do. But building in just an infrastructure within the Austin company has been the biggest thing that we've been working on. It's been a fun ride. And then on the franchise side, I get people that ask me like, what's your job on the franchise side? I'm like, I don't know, man. The way I've started to answer it is like, I just get to do the fun stuff. Like
oh
I
man,
get to do all the fun stuff. I get to show up on confirmation days and do a day in the life with Turf and talk to
yeah.
some fun people, and I get to shoot content. And thankfully that's my role, and there's a team of really talented people that are doing all the important things. So that's kind of the way I break down the two different lives that I live on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that well, let me just phrase it like this. In watching you and the growth and seeing how Tim is positioned in the organization, I don't know if I've seen it executed more beautifully with a brand up and coming from being in operation, converting into a franchise, and then scaling in the way that Waterloo is currently doing right now. I have conversations with people quite often that have a small business that are thinking about franchising, and I am now educating them on and okay, but first you've got to split your organization really into multiple parts. You've got to have your core business and that operation. You've got to have the franchise support. You've got to build out your franchise development structure and then all of the intermingling synapses in between marketing, tech, finances, the legal, all of the things that goes into it. I want to take it back to how you and Tim first started versus maybe comparing and contrasting the first partnership that you had in Turf. What was different about connecting with Tim Lovett? Other than, obviously he's coming from a franchise space and was very focused on doing a very specific thing, which aligned with what you were trying to do. I guess just help me understand that relationship and how it was presented to you. And then the execution beyond that, when you guys decided, like, hey, it's time. Let's lock in. We actually have something here.
Yeah, I feel like the first year of franchising, I was still figuring out franchising.
Yeah.
So I now feel a bit more comfortable in the seat of franchising, the world of franchising. But that first year and the conversations leading up to an agreement, I was kind of just like, hey man, don't take advantage of me. I think I even told him that. I was like, I just want you to know, like, I'm leaning on you
Yeah.
for a lot of the direction here because this is a lot over my head. And I'm just asking you, like, don't take advantage of me. And He's he didn't. I think that's part of why this relationship works so well. I was talking to somebody yesterday. They were asking a similar question, like, how's it been? And I get asked this weirdly, like, pretty frequently. Like, how's it been with you and Tim, your relationship? Like, has there been any crazy blow up moments, any chaotic moments? And like, I legitimately, truthfully, like, there hasn't. And I think, and the follow up to that is why. And I think the why to that is, well, we met in church, and I think it's like something that gets stated where it's like you need to be in alignment with the person you partner up with. And it's like just something people say, and everyone's like, yeah, I agree with that. But like, what does that mean? And for us, it's like we have the same moral background. So
Mm.
when it comes to big decisions, like we fall back on the same traits. And so there's never been any issues with that. And then beyond that, I think we both know like where our lanes are and we don't cross. So like the way I like to describe it is I built a business, Tim's building a company, and he's really, really talented at it, and he's incredible at what he does, and so that's his lane. And then for me, like I know turf, and I enjoy talking about turf, and that's kind of my lane. And I'm passionate about this business. So when people are in town or in trainings, like I'll sit in on things and I'll chime in, even if I'm like, "Hey, Lance, like don't say like let the coaches do their thing, let Matt and Taylor do their thing." I just like can't help it where I'll chime in because I just am so passionate about this business. But for us, I think we just know our lanes and we know how to stay in them. And I think there is like something to the fact that, we kind of built up a little bit of a friendship before we ever got into the business side of conversation. So just kind of another blessing where it was like a little bit of friendship was built and then business came with it. But yeah, that's just kind of the relationship and it's been nothing but fun.
It's really cool to see. I mean, it's just a blessing to be a part of on my end. I don't necessarily kick myself for not jumping on as soon as absolutely possible. I had my own stuff going on that I was working through as well, but man, I am just so grateful to be a part of the squad, and it's great to see the growth. What has been unexpected? What at this stage, we're May 2026. I feel comfortable dating this because it'll come out pretty quick. Because 'cause I'm excited about this one. I go with the flow on
Yeah, yeah.
who I interview, and I go with the flow on when we actually drop the episode. So I foresee this one coming out pretty quickly, but May 2026, man, we've got, close to closing in on 30 franchisees, closing in on 100 territories. Literally any minute now. I keep looking at my phone,
Where is it?
hoping that we get the drop. But man, what's been unexpected? What was an unknown that now you can look back and be like, that was crazy. Like, I didn't even expect that to happen. It could be good or negative, a struggle, a hardship that you had to really work through.
Yeah, I think I can hit on both struggle and
Please.
just like, yeah,
Yeah.
high. So I think originally the struggle was I didn't realize how attached I was to the brand until the brand started having other people pull at it
Mm,
and having other decision makers come into the business and even like other Waterloos out and about. Like as much of a blessing and really, really, really cool thing, there was a brief moment in time in the beginning where I was like I felt territorial about it. And I think it was just ego, and I had to just like
sure.
kinda give that up, and, that's by no means something I have through my head at this point, but that was like the early stages. And I think, you know, on a higher note, Tim had a vision for Waterloo before I could even see it, and I remember driving around with him before an agreement or anything was ever in place back in 2024, and he's like, "Hey, man, this can be big." And I'm like, I sure, I don't know. Like, "You think so?" He's like, "No, dude, this is gonna be big." And I just, like I don't think I was able to clearly see the vision he had for the brand and for the company up until, a while recently. And just seeing the success that some of these partners are having, it's incredible, man. Like, the reason I decided to partner to go franchising was because I wanted to grow this thing out because it's been such a blessing to me and have that opportunity be given to more people. And franchising was the vehicle that could give people the blessing of Waterloo Turf the fastest at the quickest rate with the focus on franchisee profitability. And so like that was always the goal and the vision of the business. And to now see it in fruition, it's been that's like the coolest part of all this is like people are people are putting all their chips on the middle of the table. They've got families. They're going in on this funny little armadillo and they're sending it and they're
Yeah.
and they're crushing it. Like
Yeah.
it's hands down the coolest part.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, and it's really fun to see. For me, switching from, being a franchisee, then going on to the broker consultant side, and then working at a franchise sales organization where, man, at one point I was working three different brands at a time. And so I do a
Jeez, man.
presentation, I do a discovery call, and then I got to do an FDD review for a different brand. And then I got to do a support call for a different brand and then a validation call. And you sell these units and then you never see them again,
Yeah,
right? You never talk to
yeah.
them. And as a franchise owner who's been on both sides of the equation, I mean, we've survived in Mosquito Joe for 10 and a half years. It's been
Let's
a pain
go.
it's
That's
been
awesome.
painful at times, right? But,
Yeah.
we got stability. I was at the shop earlier today, checking on the squad, getting some things done, and now I'm back and it's great. Then on the other side where I got a letter from the bank where, I took out a pretty hefty SBA loan that it's got to figure out what we're doing with that thing, right? Like painful learning opportunities is how
Mhm.
I say it with a smile,
Yeah.
and they're there. It's great to be able to work with you guys on the inside of the organization to see it grow. Because from my seat, Waterloo Turf is doing it the right way. As much as you feel comfortable, maybe explain. And the reason for the context behind the question, I got folks that listen to this from different areas and different walks of life. And so I'm thinking I've done enough episodes now where I can really pinpoint the avatar. A good
Mm.
number of folks that listen to this, they've got small businesses and they're thinking about franchising one day. And so I would love to hear from you as much as you feel comfortable as the founder of an organization that didn't know much about franchising, found a business partner, and then came in and is stacking it up in that way. What should people look for as they build out that type of partnership to avoid strife, to set themselves up for success, and to not be enslaved by the business, right?
And in terms of a partnership like me and Tim
Like
or
you and
what?
you and Tim with like you and
Yeah.
you and Tim. Yeah, that would be to make it practical, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
you and Tim, but also maybe the background of kind of the infrastructure of the brand itself. Like what should somebody think about as they set themselves up?
Yeah, I think you've gotta think about, like, why do you wanna do it? What's your North Star? When things hit the fan and you're, like, asking yourself, "Why am I doing this?" Like, that's important to know why you did it, and so setting yourself up, if you are with a partner is, like I said earlier, like, making sure you're in agreement and
Mhm,
alignment with your moral foundation, because you're gonna have to make hard decisions. That's gonna come down to what do you believe? And how do you go about it? So I think that's super important. And then, from an infrastructure point of view, I've always been about quality comes first. And even if it makes it a slower burn, like managing quality and your reputation is so important as you launch a small business because your small business, you're tied into your community. You're probably going to be doing work for people you see at the grocery store or your kids' baseball games or church or whatever the case may be. So, like, make sure you're doing good work and you're having quality reviews that come out of it. And then just from there, just continue to stack. Like it's a long game and you've got to be bought in to it. And the delayed gratification is the key. So, have the vision for what you want with your company. Make sure, for us, quality was at the forefront of it. And we knew that it was going to take a little bit longer to build to where we wanted to get because we were doing it the right way rather than someone that's just going to run through the market, go to
mhm,
the moon real fast only to get shot down because their work falls apart within 2 years and they're getting
right.
callbacks and they're getting run over in the streets by word of mouth. And so it's just I think if you do things the right way and you do them at the right pace, you'll run into the bottlenecks. And again, if your focus is still quality when you run into the bottlenecks, you'll make the right decision to continue to move forward and grow.
Good answer. What about your upbringing, thinking about like relationship with parents? You played lacrosse, Westwood
Yeah.
High
Yeah.
School, rival high school to the old Pflugerville.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lacrosse team though. I'm a little,
Ah,
I'm a
it's
little
crazy.
A little upset about
Yeah.
that. I think there's,
Yeah.
well, that's another podcast.
You would have been a great lacrosse player. I can tell.
I think I missed my sport, man,
You're the
honestly.
yeah, you're an athlete.
I think I missed
You'd
my
have
sport,
crushed.
just enough contact,
Yep.
but I got,
Yep.
speed there.
Got
I'm
the
sure,
speed.
teamwork, knowing your role, but as a kid, I mean, or, teenager, adolescent, entrepreneurship didn't seem like it was on your radar, but is there anything that you can call upon now from that time?
Yeah. Yeah, I kinda always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. There's a story that gets joked about in my family of I was probably in, like, 8th grade, and I was like, "I'm gonna make a" I can't believe I'm saying I've actually never said this on a podcast. Kinda forgot we were shooting a podcast, but I was like, "I'm gonna make a doggy diaper." And so, like,
Okay.
I packaged this prototype and was trying to get it on my dog, and I was like, "I'm gonna make this thing, it's gonna be great." It was an absolute bust. But anyways, that's one story I look back on, I was like, "Alright, the desire was there," and then,
Yeah.
my grandpa, my mom's mom was, a serial entrepreneur and did some pretty amazing things in the business world, and so I always just kinda admired, uh, the way that he operated. He just had a good swag about him, just the
Yeah.
way he kinda operated through life, and so, yeah, I just and then this opportunity fell in my lap right out of college to kinda test the waters of entrepreneurship, so that's kinda it's
No,
kind of the story of it.
yeah, no, I love it. I look back on my childhood all the time and I think about just the phases of my development. And I was always a hustler. I was always trying to turn something into something a little bit more. So my version of that in elementary school, I would take, brown paper bags and I'd go into my backyard every morning before school and I'd fill them up with rocks and leaves and grass. And then I would duct tape them around and make, like, these, like, Nerf football
Heck yeah.
things, and you could sling that thing.
Really?
Oh, you could sling that thing, so I was selling them 3, $5, whatever I could get, I'd offer discounts. I'd
No
stack some
way.
money. The problem was one drop, and that
Oh, yeah.
thing's busted, right? So the reviews weren't the best. This was before Google review,
Yeah, thank
obviously, the
goodness.
reviews weren't the best, so it didn't last very long, and there I in college I had a lot of extracurricular activities in college, but I actually worked in the career services office. And so all the job boards that would come in, people looking for, hey, I need my trash can moved. I need somebody to come help me clean out my backyard. I would take each one of those jobs and I would write them down and just sling them to I was college football team. That's where I met
Yeah.
Tim Limit.
Yeah, yeah.
And anybody that needed work or extra money, I was the guy that had all the jobs. It kind of built in a little hub for myself in that
Yeah.
way, and it's just funny, man, like, you don't know what you don't know, and it's through repetition and experience and failing forward and surviving the
Yeah,
failures,
for
and not
sure.
too close to the sun that
Oh,
can
yeah.
lead to a lot of growth, and that's why, these days, man, now that I'm a little bit more mature, just walking through life with palms facing up,
Mm.
whatever the Lord has for me, and then when I see an opportunity, Imma give best effort all the way
Mhm.
all the way through. Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
a good convo, man. I don't have a hard cutoff. I wanna definitely respect your time as we loop into the 4th quarter. So if you've got anything that you wanna hit on, I've got a couple more official questions for you. We talked about the small business owner that was looking to maybe professionalize the operation or scale it. Uh, Now let's talk about, maybe the individual that is still working in the med device role,
Yeah.
metaphorically speaking, right? Like they're doing a thing that they feel like they're supposed to. Maybe they've a little bit farther in their career, they've been married, they got a couple kids, and they don't feel like they're in their position that they should be, but they're maybe a little nervous or afraid. And obviously, we have these conversations all day, every day with our franchise candidates and coming into a system. But franchising is not for everybody.
Mm.
How would you maybe give advice or maybe some insight to the individual who was maybe just feels a little stuck.
Yeah, I don't think business ownership is for everybody. I think it's romanticized. I think, people see the beauties of it, the successes of it, but obviously no one's really bragging about their low moments, and so people don't often see it. I think if you have the desire for business ownership, you should jump on that desire with curiosity and have as many real life moments as you can have to really put yourself in the position of what it would look like to be a business owner before you jump into that role of actually like, quitting your job and going all in on it. I think there's wise ways to go about it. I didn't really do it the wise way, so I say all this from experience.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but I do think if you've got the desire, you should definitely jump that desire and, go be curious about it.
What does "Get Your Saturdays Back" mean to you?
Yeah, get your Saturdays back is the slogan of Waterloo Turf. And again, it was really born out of just a desire for freedom, personal, financial, calendar, all the things. Saturday's the best day of the week. And
Right.
so, for us, it really plays in multiple different ways. So, from a client's end, their perspective, something we like to ask our clients is, what would it look like to get your Saturdays back? No more yard work, not having to think about people coming over to mow your yard before you have people to come over to host and entertain. Get the kids off the screens, be able to open the back door and let the dogs run free, knowing they're not going to track mud back inside. Like, what does that look like for you? And then on the Waterloo Turf side of things, like we want to create an environment for the people that work here that every day is a Saturday. And if you're your franchise partner, if you're a turf pro or a sales rep, that's what we call them, you're showing up at the front door for these estimates with a Saturday mentality. It could be a Monday, it could be a Tuesday, it could be a Wednesday, but you're bringing the vibes of a Saturday and asking that client, "Are you ready to get your Saturdays back?"
Hmm. Love it. Love it. Love it. How do you define this stage of your life, this chapter, this season, however you want to call it? Young, young dad, young entrepreneur. You've learned a lot. You've transitioned. How do you define this stage beyond just the business?
Yeah, something that's been on my mind this last week, which I've actually been sick this last week, but we're on the mend. But the
Yeah.
last couple weeks really is I feel like I'm living right now in answered prayers, like in the life that I prayed for a long time. Like I said, I've had a long journey with chronic pain, and I'm at a point where it's like really not affecting my life anymore. I'm like physically I'm feeling the best I felt in a really, really long time, which is for anybody that's dealing with chronic pain, my heart goes out to you because it affects so much of your life, your emotions, your marriage, whatever the case. So that's massive. The business has been such a blessing. The team we have, like the culture we have at Waterloo is, I think, second to none. Like it's awesome when we have the full team in town for confirmation days and like trainings and stuff. Like it's truly, I look forward to those days because I get to see you, I get to see Taylor, like I see the rest of the team, and it's just fun. And then the franchise partners that we get to work alongside with are all amazing. So it's like one of those things where like I don't want to say I'm like waiting for the shoe to drop or whatever, but like life is good right now, and I feel like I'm just living in answered prayers.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, dude, I'm a firm believer that the best content happens right before you press record and then right after. So, like, I'm going to officially say, like, to the listener, man, listen to this episode twice, share it with somebody. If you're interested in business ownership, Waterloo Turf, any of those things and beyond, Lance, how can they reach out to you?
Waterloo Turf, follow us on Instagram, shoot us a DM. I run the DM, so I'll hit you back.
Let's go.
Uh, Yeah, follow us on YouTube, and then follow all of our other locations. Follow these partners out in the field. See, there's some great content creators out in the
Yeah.
field doing some really good stuff. So follow all of the Waterloos, and It'll get your feed looking nice and green. That's what you
Who's your
want.
That's good. Who's your favorite locations feed right now? Like, that's
All
a
right.
we got some good ones.
There's some good ones. I'll say top of mind right now is Palm Beach,
Okay.
Granger out
Granger,
there,
my man.
and
Yeah,
then Hunter in Boise, Idaho. Those 2 are putting out some really good content. It's a lot of them doing selfie stuff, doing
yeah.
some fun TikTok style videos, so those are the ones right now that I've
Love
been
it.
really liking.
Love it. What I miss, man, what did you wanna talk about? What did you expect? Maybe a hard hitter that I just glazed over because I'm only half good at this.
Yeah, I mean, no, you're great at it. You asked a lot of really good questions that aren't the standard podcast questions. I don't know, man. I wanna hear more from you though, like,
Come on, we
you've
got
got
2
a
minutes. What do you got for me, man? Come on.
you've got a lot in your life. You've got 3 kids?
3 kids.
3 kids, you're running
3.
your own business,
Yep,
you're a part of Waterloo Turf.
yep.
How's life for you right now?
This has been a big week. This has been a big day. I've referenced it a couple times to a listener. Man, would love to get that message that says that we're over 100. Like, I don't know if you have heard this and you're feeling it. You are like, this is you and your baby. It's a big deal to get
Yeah,
over 100 territories, you know?
yeah.
And humbly speaking, right? Like, humility all around for me, for you, for the brand. It's special that not a lot of brands really get to for whatever reason. So to be a part of that is really exciting for me. I think my season, if I answer my own question,
Yeah.
this is definitely a season of refinement. I found myself not quite almost exactly 2 years ago to the day praying for I just needed it to it was the phrase, "In order for there to be a breakthrough, something needs to break,"
Mm,
and just praying like, "Okay, God, what are we breaking here? What do we need?" Just in such a desperation mode of everything that I'm doing, everything that I'm trying, it's just not working, and it is affecting my marriage, it's affecting my ability to parent my kids, and today was a very significant day because we unofficially took a big step in separating from previous partnerships and kind of closing some doors, which
okay.
was really nice. Things that have been lingering from the Groovy Hughes days that we've officially kind of shut the chapter on. Feels nice. It
Let's
feels like I got
go.
a little bit of weight off of
Heck
my
yeah.
shoulders, refinement now.
Yeah.
Now that I can really look forward and perfect my craft,
Mm,
truly lock in. There's no more just throwing stuff up against the wall. I know it works. I know
yeah.
what output I need to put in. I know that if I look at my calendar, if I look back on my notes throughout the day, if I did what I needed to execute on, and if not, I know who to point the finger at. It's myself, and I think I've set myself up in a way that 3 years ago, gosh, yeah, 3, maybe 4 years ago, I felt there were so many outside factors to my success, and it put me in a state of desperation to aggressively do things, stack. I've always been confident in my ability, but I didn't
Mm,
always have the vision or the blueprint. Did not have a Tim Lovett in my life until Tim Lovett came back into my life,
yeah.
and I'm so thankful for that. My relationship with Tim and how I've been brought into the Waterloo fold, and I'm learning so much just from this entire process. But it feels really good to not be overcommitted, and there's not that blazing fire that if things don't go the right way, I'm gonna get caught up in the flames and get left in smoke. And I carried that feeling for
Mm,
so long that now that I am out of it, it's a little bit more self-induced of like, all right, let's really fine tune and execute on the things that we know need to get executed at a high level, there's always a balance game of trying to play capacity. Like,
Oh, yeah.
where is the capacities? If I log in too much, and I've got called out before, right? Like, I'm putting a little bit too much energy into the business stuff, that boxes that should get checked on the Waterloo side. Let's fine tune that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Let's check those boxes a little bit. Or too logged in on the Waterloo stuff that it's 6:30 and dinner's been served and the kids are already done. I gotta get out there and lock in, right? There's always going to be a
Yeah.
balance to that, but no, it's a good. I would agree, man. Just it's a really good season right now. I am enjoying the process, and I think that Alex Ramosi talks about a lot of times in his podcast and his content. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? You die, right? Like, you do something, you die. And if you're not gonna die, then there's tomorrow. And
Yeah.
then for me, I realized I was responding to a lot of things in that like trigger, that fight or flight of death. It's like, oh wait, no, this is like, there's restructuring mechanisms to help yourself financially if you make a wrong choice or you do a wrong
Yeah.
play. Like, there's ways to recover. I am in a very good position financially, actually, and by cutting certain things off and ending certain things, I actually made more money than I made my entire life just by pivoting, you know?
Amazing.
And, it doesn't have to be doom and gloom until you decide that it's doom and gloom, and,
Yeah.
I live that now, and that's a true mindset that I have coming back on the other side of, man, on paper failures are
Oh, yeah.
failures, and they hurt, but, you know, it's learning opportunities and experiences that we get to live through and laugh about, and one day we'll be talking about them on stages, and we just gotta keep fighting till we get there.
It's good perspective. That's good stuff. I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, it's been fun to have you on the team. You know, you're skilled, you're gifted, you're a master connector. We did the film study 2 weeks ago, or whatever that was. Getting to listen to one of your phone calls
That was something else.
with a prospective partner, and I mean, it's cool to watch you work your craft because you're genuinely good at it. You know, I'm not just saying that to gas you up, but I think, and I don't think you need it either, but I'm very thankful to have guys like you on the team.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That means a lot. That was fun, man. I had a feeling that I was gonna be first up, first on, and I'm here for it wherever. And that was a good call to
It was
get
good.
called out. I was
Yeah,
happy that it was that one. You could definitely find some worse ones in the mix, but
it was
no, it's
solid.
fun, dude. If you treat this like anything in development, I feel like a great experience in franchising and the success of your franchise experience starts in franchise development. And we truly have the opportunity to set people up for success or save their lives.
Yeah,
Because if people make the wrong choice, I mean, it is
yeah.
like I just said, like, you're not gonna die, but it is very painful if you make the
Oh, yeah.
wrong choice, and it can lead people down a dark path. And so if you can bring light to the experience, if you can bring education and truly guide them with, "Hey, this is gonna be fun, this is gonna be educational, you're gonna learn a lot in this process, and there's absolutely no reason that we can't walk away from this being friends and being a connection and value adders to one another." One of my
Mhm.
favorite things that I'm gonna start doing is getting people that I've got a couple folks that I've worked with over the last few years that didn't go with the brands that I represented, and I'm gonna have them on the podcast and kinda talk
Oh,
about
nice.
what they did after. Yeah, and it's just fun
I
to,
like
like,
that.
connect with people, and I enjoy it. And so if I'm in the position to connect, add value, not just to the connected right here, but to the person beyond and the people that you're gonna go engage with after the fact, and vice versa, I'm all for it, man.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
yeah,
I'd definitely listen to those.
yeah. Well, I wanna get some more Waterloo folks on in the mix. I love that we could talk about this. Obviously, this was a plug without a plug for Waterloo Turf, right? Like,
For sure.
obviously, founder. I work in the organization. I think it's a great brand. I'm really excited about what we're doing, but I think we added a lot of value to people that are just in the process of
Yeah.
figuring things out.
Yeah.
And what anything else before I let you go that you want to chop it up on?
Man, you asked some good questions. I don't think so.
Um,
I think the last thing I would say to anybody that's listening is just be faithful with what's in front of you.
mm.
And, you know, yeah, just be faithful with what's in front of you.
Love it, man. To the listener, I already said it. Listen to this one twice. Share it with somebody you love. Until next time, stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Peace.